All right, let's talk about one of the most famous faces in history, the bust of Queen Nefertiti. We all know it's in a German museum, right? But the real story of how it got there and why it's never come home to Egypt is so much more than a simple dispute. It's a full-blown conspiracy, and we're going to get right into it. So here's the big question that's been asked for decades. Why isn't Nefertiti back in Egypt? You see, for the longest time, everyone thought this was just an argument between two countries, Egypt and Germany. But it turns out there was a hidden international plot working to keep the queen right where she is.
Now, you'd probably expect the clues to this whole mystery to be buried in archives in Cairo, maybe Berlin, but nope. The first huge crack in the official story actually appeared in a totally unexpected place, London. And what was found there? Well, it changed the entire game.
Just stop and think about that for a minute. Why on earth would secret files about a supposedly Egyptian-German issue be sitting in the British National Archives? Discovering this huge file was a total shock. It proved that a third, very powerful player had been pulling strings from the shadows all along.
And this wasn't just some accident or a bureaucratic mix-up. Oh no. The documents pointed to what you might call a classic combine. A secret, under-the-table deal between two sides that you'd think would be enemies.
And here it is. This is the smoking gun. A direct quote from the British ambassador in Berlin sent to the curator at the British Museum. He's literally telling them to make sure that any deal between Egypt and Germany for Nefertiti's return fails. Britain was actively sabotaging the whole thing. The big question is, why?
Well, to get why, you have to understand the combine itself, this secret little plot. You've got Britain and Germany, about to be on opposite sides of a world war, but they found common ground. Their shared desire to keep their hands on ancient Egyptian treasures brought them together. It's wild, right? War was about to tear them apart, but their greed actually united them.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit to the middle of World War II. Germany is, a little preoccupied. Egypt sees this as a golden opportunity, a new chance to make another official push to finally bring its queen home. So this time, the Egyptian Prime Minister, al-Nukrashi, went big. He didn't just ask one country. He sent a formal request to all the major allied powers, Great Britain, France, the US, and the Soviet Union. He was basically asking this powerful wartime alliance to help fix a historical injustice.
And the way they responded is really telling. The Soviet Union was immediately on board. They said, yep, it should go back. But Britain and France, they washed their hands of it, saying, hey, it's not our problem. The bust is in the American-controlled zone of Germany. And just like that, the United States found itself in the driver's seat.
But what America did next was, well, it was far from simple. Thanks to documents uncovered in Washington, we now know they were playing a really strange and, frankly, deceptive game. And this is where the public story and the private one just completely split apart. To Egypt's face, the American position sounded pretty reasonable. Just wait until Germany has its own elected government, and then you can ask them. Sounds fair, right? But behind closed doors, their secret memos told the real story. The famous Monuments Men, the guys sent to save art from the Nazis, were terrified. Why? Because they believed if Nefertiti went back, it would start a chain reaction. And that's exactly what they called it, the domino effect. This was their #1 fear. If they let this one major artifact go home, it would trigger a flood of requests for everything else.
And these were the giant dominoes they were worried about. Think about it. If Germany returns Nefertiti, how could Britain possibly say no to giving the Rosetta Stone back to Egypt, or the Parthenon marbles back to Greece? For these Western museums, the stakes were suddenly massive, and Nefertiti was the first domino they had to keep from falling. And this quote, wow, this says it all. In one of their internal memos, the Monuments Men made this absolutely mind-blowing argument. They said that these artifacts weren't really Egyptian or Greek anymore, but that they were now the property of all of Europe. They just invented a whole new category of ownership to justify keeping everything, essentially erasing the actual history and origin of these treasures. So, that brings us to today. After all these decades, we now know about the secret deals, the sabotage, the fear of the domino effect. The truth is finally out. And it leaves us with one last huge question. Now that we know what really happened, will anything actually change?
Is it finally possible that Queen Nefertiti will one day make the journey home?